Hey everyone, and welcome back to Sip Sip Knit. My name is Kim, and if you're new here, this is the podcast where I chat about what kind of crafty things I've been up to. I mostly knit, but I also have some crochet projects currently. I dabble in spinning and cross stitch, and I would like to start sewing at some point soon. But yeah, I'm coming to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I live here with my partner Pat and our 2 dogs and 2 cats. I'm also a runner, so I chat about that a fair amount. Big fan of music. We go to a lot of live shows. I like just generally being outdoors, so a lot of times my content will feature some of that too. So anyway, let's get into it. I figured today I am still not feeling very well, so I'm going to try to keep this as brief as I can, but I wanted to take some time to record sort of a year in review where I chat about what kind of projects I finished the last year, some of the highlights, some of the learning processes I went through, and takeaways that I have, along with what I am planning for the next year. So yeah, let's just get right into it. I'm going to start with reviewing my most recent finished objects. I just bound off the border of this shawl maybe an hour ago-ish, give or take. This is the Vertices Unite shawl by Stephen West, and it is my 42nd finished object of the year. So I made the large size. There was a small and a large size, so of course I went big because I love big schlankety shawls. So this is it. It is more than my wingspan, and I have not even blocked this. And honestly, the way that the drape is right now and with the size, I'm not sure I will block it. I might eventually soak it a little bit just to wash it, and kind of freshen it up. But honestly, I'm pretty happy with how it looks right now. It is all garter stitch, but in a modular pattern. So section 1 was this one, this green and pink stripe section I have going on right there. And then you, I believe, picked up stitches along here for section 2, the blue and light purple section. And then section 3 is this rectangle that I did all in one variegated speckled skein. And then section 4 was, I believe, this little triangle up here where I striped in this variegated skein with the same blue from section 2. And then section 3, I striped in some of that same pink with a different variegated skein that I had some scraps of. And then for section 6, I did green and blue. And then I used this same pink that I incorporated in in sections 1 and 5 to do the border. And I am done. I realized earlier this week, I'm like, okay, I'm on section 6. I think I can just bang out this last section in the border. And I had to put everything aside because the border with the I-cord 3-stitch I-cord bind off took me a while. I'm gonna say some people are like, no, it doesn't take that long. No, it took at least 4 hours, at least, because I watched a movie, a couple of television episodes, and then worked on it again this morning. So I was playing a little bit of yarn chicken while doing that. I have only this much left of the border color, and I was threatening some of my friends. I'm like, if I run out of yarn on this border, I might throw the whole thing in the garbage. But I'm glad I didn't, and now that it's off the needles, I really love it. It's scrappy, and the color palette I kind of selected based on the colors out of this variegated skein from Hedgehog. It's just their sock base 75-25 superwash nylon, but So you get some of the blues, greens, pinks. There's like kind of, it's almost like a vintagey 70s color palette that I'm definitely a fan of. And I just happen to have like just an assortment of scraps that kind of paired well and worked well with this this variegated. So very happy with how it turned out. Now I have a nice new blanket. So anyway, where I was going with that is for my stats, I now have 42 finished projects. Breakdown of that, I have made 12 garments, 6 pieces of neckwear, and that includes shawls, scarves, cowls, whatever, 12 pairs of socks, 6 hats, 3 pairs of mittens, 1 pair of baby booties, 1 cat bed, and 1 dog piece of neckwear, which I guess I could have put under the other miscellaneous neckwear, but I kept that as just a miscellaneous item of its own. 10 of the items, so 32 of the items were for myself, which sounds a little selfish, but I don't really care that much. I knit for myself mostly, unless I either get asked by a special friend or for the few knit-worthy people, I will knit for them. But I mean, it's my hobby, so I don't care that I've made 3/4 of the items for myself. So of the garments, 1 was a chunky cardigan, 4 long sleeve sweaters, 7 short sleeve tops. 1 of those long sleeve sweaters was a crochet garment. I did my first entirely colorwork sweater. 1 of those was an Advent project. Of the 6 pieces of neckwear, 1 was the giant scarf that I made for my friend Tony, the Doctor Who scarf. 3 of those were shawls, 1 colorwork cowl. Of the 12 pairs of socks, 2 of those were gifted to my partner Pat. 6 hats of those, 2 of those were gift knits for my mom and sister. Of the mitts, 2 of those were gift knits, and the other pair was my fox mitts. And then the cat bed I made out of recycled t-shirt. I cut apart some of my partner's old t-shirts that he was gonna just donate and crocheted those, holding it with some fuzzy like Lime brand acrylic. And then my dog pup shift, as I call it, was made out of leftovers from my night shift shawl. And then the pair of booties was gifted with a baby hat to my friend who had her baby in December. So yeah, that's how it all kind of shook out. So I kind of wanted to focus on reviewing some of the garments that I made and just kind of going through what inspired me to make some of those, and if there are any that I would make or not make again, or what I would do different. So I'm going to start with my most recent sweater, which is also a new FO on this show since I last spoke with you, and that is my Sorrel sweater by Wool and Pine Designs. Let me make sure I have the right side. I think this is the back. Yeah. So here's the sorrel. So lovely, so soft. I will pop in a FO photo here of me wearing it earlier this week after blocking it and letting it dry. So I bound off the second sleeve on Christmas Day. This one took me a few months. I started it back in September, which I hadn't really realized how long it had taken me, but I was amongst working on a lot of other things. But I don't think there's anything I would do differently with this sweater. I'm very happy with it. It exceeded my expectations for my abilities. I mean, maybe I would do a fade, but I'm not sure that I would prefer a fade because I really like the muted neutral browns, and I think I'll get a lot of wear out of that one. So no regrets at all in the sorrel. So one of the first items I made this year, and now I don't even see it. Oh, here it is. Was this, it's called the Lapoof sweater, and it's a free pattern by Hedgehog Fibers. It's top-down raglan, DK weight gauge with kind of balloon puffy sleeves. That's why it's called the Lapoof, and I believe there's the Lapoof cardigan. So for this one, I used my 24 minis plus one full skein from my last year's holiday advent from Green Button Jar. And I just went in sequential order of the fade set, which was a rainbow fade. And I did it all holding fingering weight double. And I just striped in. So the full skein you got with this is the variegated speckles that you see in the stripes. So I held double each yarn, and it made it easy to seamlessly kind of stripe and fade amongst the other stripes. So it was a really cool process knit. And while I like rainbows and generally things with that, I don't get a ton of wear out of this, only because like I tend to wear a lot more neutrals, I find. So like I like wearing this, but I don't always gravitate towards a garment like this. But that said, I don't really regret making this. I loved the process. I loved having to, I mean, it's kind of tedious, but like the yarn conservation, like constantly like managing how much yarn you're using of each of the minis and making sure to save enough to be able to fade the same type of way on the sleeves, and then just kind of the marling effect you get by fading on some of these sections is just so fun. So that's what I have to say about that. No regrets, but it's not something I wear all the time. Another item that I made this year, let's see, I think the next one after that was my Miserina top. This is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. And I knit this using black yarn from Woolfolk in their Tind base, TYND. And the contrast color is by Ex Libris Fibers in her fingering weight sock base in the Eliza Furnace colorway. And this one, it was one of my first tops using color work, so I really tried hard to make sure my tension was even going so far as to use what's called the ladder back jacquard technique on the inside to help manage floats, because there were a lot of long floats in between all of those flowers, because in between the flowers, I'll show you, you have these cable sections that you'll see on the front, but this is what it looks like on the inside, where you can see these ladders that really just help you manage those floats. It's kind of hard to explain. If you're at all interested in this, I suggest you just like look up some videos. I don't remember which one or ones that I used when I was figuring it out, but it was really helpful for me to manage the floats in between these cable sections between the flower motifs. So this is one where I had that extra bit of learning and got the extra confidence of knitting a garment that I was just super duper proud of. I was proud of the new techniques I learned, and I was proud of the finished product, and it's one that I wear very frequently still. Okay, and then the next next one I want to talk about is another Caitlin Hunter pattern, the Soldotna crop. Extremely pleased with this one. Honestly, there's nothing I would have done differently, and I exceeded my expectations on this one. It was my first all over color work sweater garment, short sleeved. I didn't do a long sleeve version. And if you're at all interested in seeing my floats, I know some people get interested in seeing the float side of things. So here you go. Let's see, here's the front float side and the rear float side with all of my ends that are woven but not trimmed because I don't care that much. But everything about this is wonderful, from the feel of the yarn I use, which is Magpie Fibers Swanky DK, along with one rosy green wool, which is the mustardy yellow. Everything about this is wonderful. I did have to take care, and I swatched before, but keeping an eye on my gauge throughout the color work. This was a really great practice in color work tension and making sure and really honing in on how to manage my yarn and manage my tension to get really even gauge. So absolutely no regrets with this one. I love it, and I want to make another sweater out of Magpie Fibers now. All right, the next one I want to chat about. So all 4 of those that I chatted about so far were on my Make 9 list for this year. But this is one, actually most of the ones I'm going to show you are ones that were just impromptu, unplanned, that I saw the pattern and either I had yarn or was inspired to get yarn for it. So I hopped on the ranunculus bandwagon this year and made my own ranunculus short sleeve version. Fingering weight yarn held with mohair lace weight. And this is one where I got the hype of the ranunculus, and I actually am surprised I didn't knit another one this year, but I have a couple different yarns that I'm considering. I'm not sure if I want to do like a long sleeve worsted version or do another fingering weight version, TBD. But I love the flexibility and how open and relaxed the gauges, and how you can really just use a single skein of fingering to make, at least in my size, I think I knit, I don't know, whatever would probably be the equivalent of a medium, a women's medium, like the 3rd size or something like that. But I used just under 1 whole skein of fingering weight and slightly less than 1 skein of the mohair. So that was a nice unplanned knit that made me understand the hype behind the ranunculus. All right. I'm going to skip over a few because I'm already feeling like my voice is getting a little weak and hoarse, but so I'm going to leave out a few that I plan on talking about. But this one I wanted to mention because some things were learned. First off, okay, so this is a twist tee. The name of the designer is kind of escaping me. I think this is the back. This is the front. It's a paid for pattern, but for being paid for, it gave very minimal direction first off, like on how to, it's a little loosey-goosey, like choose your own adventure on how you want to do the raglans. It doesn't give you any kind of direction other than like increase X amount of times or something like that. The pattern is cute, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a beginner's pattern because I had to do a lot of Googling and searching and figuring out things on my own, which was a learning process. But that said, I'm not super duper happy with the finished product. It's okay, but it's a little thick for what is supposed to be a short sleeve tee. It's called the twist tee. And the sample is shown, I believe, with someone wearing shorts. So it's seemingly meant to be like a warmer weather type of garment. That being said, it's a very kind of thick gauge, and I'm at gauge for the project. And I also did not use a very good choice of yarn. I used Lion Brand Respun, which I liked working with, but it is very warm to wear. And it's already, I've not worn it a whole ton, but it is already pilling a lot, as you can see. And that's from, I don't know, like wearing it maybe a handful of times, and plus the knitting, just the handling of it. So I was planning on making a long cardigan out of some Lion Brand Respun that I bought specifically for that last year. It's like a red rusty color. I'm a little bit torn because while the Lion Respun would make a very warm cardigan, because I get really warm wearing just this t-shirt, I'm not sure I want to invest that much time making a garment out of it if it's not something I'm going to love the end result for. So I'm going to do some thinking on that because I do want to use it. I want to use it and put it towards something good, but I am concerned that it's not going to be something I love the end result of. So that has me with some reservations. And then the last thing I want to talk about is kind of, so I used for this, okay, this is the Anchor Summer Shirt. It's a pattern by Petite Knit. So as you can see, it has this broken rib yoke and then just stockinette body. So the sample in the design, I believe, is knit out of some type of plant blend, maybe like a cotton linen blend. But I used Lion Brand Trubu, which is like a bamboo type fiber. And I don't like this yarn. And I thought I was going to like the drape of the fabric because it is pretty soft. It's very soft and next to skin, but it just like isn't super flattering on because it has a little bit too much drape and not enough structure. And so I actually added in an elastic band around the entire neck because the neck was just stretching all the way out like way too much when I was wearing it, and it was just like, it looked weird. So I added the elastic, which helps, but still like I just don't love it and I don't wear it, and it's kind of disappointing because I think I would like to make another similar, I don't know if I would do like another summer version or do one of the like sweater anchor sweaters, because Petite Knit has several of this type of pattern with like the broken rib yoke, and I love the look of it, but I would not use Lion Trubu again, especially not for a garment. And this is another one that's already like, it's hard to see until you get really close, but it's pilling like a lot. And this is another one I hardly ever wear. So it's like, what is going on? So anyway, those are a few of my lessons learned. I feel like there's always something new to learn and take away, especially as you try new yarns, new fibers, new designs, new patterns. And there's so much out there between the materials and the designs that it's hard to always get it right. And sometimes you don't know, like, while you're in the midst of a pattern, how you're going to feel about it at the end. So it's not that I have regrets about any of this. It's just that, sometimes things aren't, the results you get aren't exactly what you hoped for. So that's a little bit disappointing, I guess. But all that said, like, I still love knitting and I love trying out the new things. So yeah, I will segue that into some of my plans and intentions for the coming year. I did do a Make 9 last year, which I posted on my Instagram. I finished 8 of the 9 items, and one of the items that I did not finish was the cardigan that I had intended on using the lime and respun to knit. But given how I was feeling about the twist tee, I put that on the back burner, and now I still want to knit the cardigan. And I still might use the respun, but I don't know. So in any case, I was very happy that I managed to finish 8 of the 9 items, and a lot of those were picked for the reasons of, like, I wanted an all over colorwork sweater, I wanted to do colorwork mitts, I wanted something that used mohair, so I knit the sorrel sweater. So a lot of those goals were achieved. So moving into the new year, I'm not going to do a Make 9, but I'm going to let my Ravelry queue be a little more fluid, move things around up and down, and allow myself that flexibility to not be disappointed if I don't get to something on my list, and have it be a little less concretely defined, if that makes sense. That being said, some of the items some of the inspiration that I'm feeling going into next year is I want to knit more things that incorporate well into my wardrobe. So I want to be a little more intentional when it comes to my yarn selections and choose colors or patterns or just fibers and bases that will incorporate well, that I'll wear a lot, that'll hold up nicely over time. I'm really feeling garments with some texture, so I'd like to make like a cabled sweater. I think I would like to make something that incorporates some more complicated form of brioche. So what comes to mind is like a Leslie Ann Robinson shawl or something like that. I would like to design something. I'm not sure what. Probably an accessory to start with, like maybe a cowl or a shawl or socks or something, mitts. I don't know yet. I haven't quite gotten super inspired, but I have a few ideas kind of floating around in my head of items that, like, I vaguely would like, but I haven't been able to find a pattern that exactly suits what I'm looking for, if that makes any sense. So, and I would also like to try steeking. So I, on my Instagram, I posted in my stories my intentions for the year based on a template by the Botanical Knitter, who also has recently started a podcast, by the way, so check her out. Her name is Emily. She's from Minnesota, and she's lovely. But anyway, she posted this palette where you could write, like, things you do and don't want to do, and some of your inspiration for the coming year, and things you would like to try. And one of the things I put on there that I'd like to try is steeking, and one of my local yarn shops responded saying that they're going to be offering some steeking classes. So that seems like a really good opportunity to give that a try. So I think I'm going to do that whenever they post those, is take a steeking class. And generally, yeah, I just want to be fluid and flexible and purchase and cast on with some, I don't want to say like entirely like intentional, because sometimes I just like want to cast on something, and if I have yarn in my stash, I'll do so. But also not just, I guess, like have the finished object in mind. I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I'm kind of rambling, so I'm going to stop that. Anyway, so last thing I'm going to chat about is just a couple of the things that I've recently cast on. Both of these were Christmas Day cast-ons. We drove back from West Virginia on Christmas Day because we had gone there and stayed with my family for 3 nights. And we left on Christmas Day after having a nice quiet morning and some coffee and breakfast with my mom and sister at their house. So we got back to Pittsburgh in plenty of time for me to unpack and sit down and relax and cast on 2 new things. So I will show you what I've been working on. My new sweater that I started is the Cumulus sweater. It's patterned by Isabel Kramer. And it's a top-down circle round yoke, I don't know, pattern with color work motif. And these are actually hop flowers, which I love the look of, first off, but I thought was super appropriate because I really love beers on the hoppier end of the spectrum. So IPAs, pales, hazy stuff, like very hop forward beers are my go-to. But I'm just about, so below these crisscrosses is going to be the hop flowers, but like inverted. So I'm about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the color work chart. And I am using, for my main color, Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the colorway Storm Cloud. And then my color work is Spin Cycle Dream State, which is their worsted base, in the colorway Verba Volant, which is like pastel pinks, blues, and yellows. Yeah, you can kind of see it a little bit better there. And then this is what the Brooklyn Tweed looks like. You can see there's some tweed with some little blips of blue. And I did my first try on the other day, so I'll try to pop a picture in, but it's looking to have, I think, just the right amount of ease. It's meant to have, I believe, 6 inches of positive ease and fit a little more oversized, which I think will be really nice. And then the second thing I cast on was, I've been really wanting to use these Karen cakes. They're just like a big box store brand, crystal cakes. My old boss had a whole giant box full of yarn, and there were 3 or 4 of these in there. So they've been sitting just in my stash for over a year as I was trying to figure out what kind of Afghan I wanted to make out of those. I got rid of, or donated, I guess, a lot of the yarn in there because it was just a lot of acrylic that I knew I wouldn't use and didn't really need for my stash because I already had plenty of acrylic from making amigurumi a lot a few years ago. But I started a circular Afghan, and it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger as it goes. And I plan on having this be kind of a longer term project. Just something to have when I need something mindless to turn on a movie and not have to pay close attention to. So yeah, I think it's going to be really nice. The gauge is pretty open, so it's not super heavy. The yarn is like, it's kind of like a blown yarn, so it's very nice and poofy. And I am using a size USM 9mm crochet hook by Clover. And the only other thing I've really been working on is my triangle granny square or half triangle granny stripe shawl that I'm crocheting using kind of Christmassy colors, but I've not been really working on that a whole ton. And I casually have a sock in the works not in the works. It's just something that I have in my car knitting bag. If I'm like, I worked on it a little bit yesterday because I was in the world's longest car wash line, not really going anywhere. So I pulled out my sock and worked on that a little bit, but I don't have either of those projects with me. So I was caking up yarn, some more Brooklyn tweed for my cumulus, and decided to also cake up this Ex Libris yarn that I think I showed you a few episodes ago. It's her non-superwash merino rambouillet blend in the colorway called Cultish. So it's like a moody, kind of bright, but kind of subdued at the same time kind of blue. So I'm going to make him a simple 1x1 rib hat, worsted weight, so it should go reasonably quickly. He loves the 1x1 DK weight hat that I made for him a while back. I think it was in 2020 I made him that one. So yeah, I think he'll like this one too. He likes the color. I asked if he would want a hat out of it, and he said yes, he thinks it'll be nice, so he's gonna get a hat out of it. And I already had this one caked up, and I've changed my mind 1,000 times about what I want to use this yarn for. It was something I found in one of the sale bins the last time I was at Sewickley Yarns, and it's Manos del Uruguay, that their single ply Clara base, kind of a sport weight, non-superwash, 100% wool. There's about 385 yards. So I was kind of considering starting to try a muscle burrow hat. I've not made one of those before, and I think this is probably enough yardage, because I was looking at some of the projects on Ravelry that were DK weight and even fingering weight, and I think with almost 400 yards this should be fine. I considered making a cowl, like a sort of open textured cowl, but I think I'm going to try a hat and see how that goes. I think I would wear a hat out of this more than I would a cowl out of this, so I think that's my plan. 2 new hats. I might cast on one this evening and do a New Year's Day cast on tomorrow. Not sure which. For which. And that is all I'm going to chat with you today about. My voice is definitely getting hoarse. I did not intend on going this long on this video because I wanted to conserve my voice. So I'm going to wrap up there, and I will chat with you again hopefully in a couple of weeks. I hope everybody is having a great holiday and having lots of knitting time and lots of downtime, or just generally joyous, happy visiting time with friends and or family. And I will talk to you all later.